Today we're visiting Idanha-a-Velha. It's one of the 12 historical villages of Portugal, and it's one of the oldest in that list. And it's located in the central region of Portugal, along the banks of the River. And you might ask yourself why such a small village has such a massive wall around it with a proper gate. And that's because it has a long history that goes back to the 1st century when the Romans built a village here, and that grew to a city size, and was at some point at the 4th century it had 200,000 people living here. And we wanted to show you around that.
Ga je nog een keer springen, Puk? Nee.
Nog een keer.
Nog een keer!
Oh! Ja!
Wow! Ja.
Well, this city has a long history, and it started in the 1st century, like I said before, when the Romans built this city under Emperor Augustus. And in around 400 or 600, the sources vary, the Visigoths and the Suebi took over this place, and they ruled it for a couple hundred years. And then in 713 the Arab armies came in and took over this place, and then it stayed under Islamic rule for half a millennium. And then in the 1200s the armies were fought back to the Tagus River, which is south of here, and then the Templars took this place over, and in the meantime this place was named Egitania. And that's what was known as for the rest of time until the Idanha-a-Nova was built, and then this became Idanha-a-Velha. Ja, dit is dus waarschijnlijk één boom.
Ja. Ja, misschien niet dit.
Nee, maar yeah, we're at the pillory of the city, and it's built presumably in 1510, and it's in the Manueline style, which is a very common style for pillories all over Portugal. And yeah, we can assume that some people were tortured here and put on public display for committing crimes like theft or something else that wasn't allowed. But no capital punishment was done here, and it is a useful or practical object, but it's mainly has symbolic value that they were allowed to speak justice here, and that's where what it symbolized, that this is an independent city that had a justice and law of its own and could speak law. Okay, we're at the Igreja de Santa Maria, which is St. Mary's Church, and it's used to be, or is, a cathedral, and it's most likely that this was built as a mosque by the Moors, by the Arabs, and then turned into a church later on when it was taken over by the Christians here. And we know this as a people because archaeologists say that this architecture is different than all the architecture from around here, and also the position of the church facing, or the building facing east towards Mecca, is another indication that this was first a mosque and then repurposed as a church and cathedral. Moeten we daar op de terugweg nog maar even langs. A Roman bridge.
Ja, oké.
Kijk, je moet hem eigenlijk daar beginnen. Daar boven in de rivier. En dan moet je zacht langzaam aan die kant uitlopen. Ja.
Alright, let's talk about King Wamba. I've been looking for the tree, but I can't find it. Maybe it has already died because of all the virus that goes around for the European ashes. But according to legends, King Wamba was born in Igitania, which is Idanha-a-Velha, by its former name. And he planted this tree around 643, and you should be able to see it, but I can't. And he ruled from 672 to 680, and during that reign he had some struggles defending his kingdom, which was the total Iberian Peninsula in the southern Gaul region. And he had two major things that he's done, edicts that he spoke out, and one of them was that all the people in his kingdom should defend the kingdom, even the clergyman, which was pretty extraordinary in those times. And the other thing was that he freed slaves to become part of his army, which is also a very extraordinary thing to do in at least the Western European history. This story of the Wamba tree or the Wamba ash is part of European folklore, and it's not the only version of that story that goes around. So we have to take it with a pinch of salt whether that's true or not, but I thought it was fun. That story of the Wamba tree is one of those two legends, and the other legend has to do with his queen, his wife. And according to legends, the castle where Wamba lived was on the north shore of the Tagus River, and on the south shore you had the Moors still ruling, and they could see the castle on the southern bank. And as luck would have it, his queen fell in love with the Moorish king, and because Wamba was defending his kingdom all over the place and was hunting a lot, she had a lot of spare time on her own. So they had the tradition, the queen and the Moorish king, to sit on either side of the Tagus River on stone thrones and look at each other. And at some point the Moorish king decided to get his beloved, and he started digging a tunnel underneath the Tagus River, which he didn't manage to do, but he managed to get the queen anyhow, and took her back to his castle. And as King Wamba found out about this, he decided to go and get her, and he disguised himself as a beggar and went to the Moorish king. But the queen saw through his disguise and said, "This is King Wamba," so he was imprisoned. And the only wish that Wamba said he would want to do is to play on his horn, to blow his horn. and that was also the sign for his troops to come and get him, and so he managed to get his queen back, and she was well, taken back to Idanha and sentenced to death by being strapped to a millstone and being rolled off the cliff. And right before then, the queen cursed everyone that was around and said that nothing would grow on the path that she would roll down on the millstone, and apparently there is nothing growing on a strip of land that the millstone rolled down. Now, I found this story and I thought it was ridiculously funny and a bit sad, but that's how legends go. And I wanted to share that because it's also one of the main or major things that can be ascribed to Idanha-a-Velha. So I want to close this off with this legend. Take it with a lot of pinches of salt, maybe a whole block, but it's fun to have these stories in our history and legend folklore. So this ends our trip here in the Ponsel River bank, or bed, because it's mostly dried out now, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you ever find yourself in this region, I would highly suggest to come to Idanha-a-Velha and enjoy the Roman and Visigoth and Moor history that you have here. And there are not a lot of tourists around on the parking spots that were there. That is not a huge parking spot, but there were only 2 other cars and a camper van, so you are pretty much alone with the locals here. There is a great cafe where you can drink a beer and a coffee and just enjoy yourself here. Bye!